What's up guys, this is Mike from BavhausTV, and today we're going to show you how to replace a driver front window regulator on an e46 sedan. So Uroparts sent us their window regulator. This is off their premium line, meaning that this is a part that meets or exceeds OEM. And in this case, I'd say it exceeds it, as the upgrade on this system is ball bearing pulleys on the tension system. And that's a huge deal because these commonly have tension issues, and it's usually due to a lack of lubrication. So these are self-lubricating. As you can see, the rails themselves come lubricated from the factory. And where these units normally fail is right in these points right here. And here, there's a plastic retainer that holds the mating point of this cable in here and actually pulls the window up and down. And once there's too much tension on the system, these plastic tabs will break, and then the window will start to grind. This cable will get tension in areas that it shouldn't, and then the entire system will fail. So Uroparts went above and beyond with engineering a better system that I believe exceeds the OEM and is less prone to failure. So as long as when you install this, you follow our procedure and you clean and lubricate the window guides and the window itself, then this system should last you a long time. Now, the part is also covered by a limited lifetime warranty, and that also is a unlimited mileage warranty. So as long as you properly install this, you'll have it either work forever, or if it fails, you should be able to get it covered by that warranty as well. So that's enough about the part. Thanks to Uroparts for sending us this part, as well as the passenger side. We did film a video on the passenger front of this vehicle as well with another Uroparts window regulator where we show a failing regulator. So we'll show you a clip right here of what a window regulator sounds like when it's failing, not completely failed. If you guys are interested in the whole video for the right front window regulator replacement, the link for that is in the description below, but let's get started on the driver's side. So the door panel is held on with 5 screws and a ton of clips. You have 2 screws behind this piece of trim here. You have a screw behind this mirror switch, and then under 2 caps down here, you have 2 more screws. Now, along with that, there's obviously an airbag behind the spot that says airbag if you have an airbag in your door panel. There's also this indicator for the door lock actuator. Along with that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 clips that hold the door panel to a piece of trim. Along with that, you have a bunch of clips that go around the door panel that just need to be popped out. You want to be really gentle with those. You have your 2 speakers, and then lastly, you have your door handle itself that needs to be removed. So first off, we're gonna go after this piece of trim here. It's held in with probably 4 or 5 clips. They sit inside plastic retainers, and over here there's 2 barbs that kind of go underneath this door handle here. So as you pull it out, you're gonna wanna kind of pull it towards the back of the door. I'm gonna use a trim tool here. If you guys need a set of these, we'll leave an Amazon link in the description below. They're not too expensive and they come in super handy. So as you kind of pull up, you wanna keep some tension against it so you don't break this trim, and it is common for people to break these by yanking on them too much. You wanna evenly pull it out, and then afterwards, you pull it out so that these 2 tabs on the end that go into here don't break. So there's 4 of these tabs that go into those 4 plastic retainers, and then behind there you find your 2 T20 screws. Next, we're gonna remove this mirror switch. What you're gonna wanna do is kind of place a cloth so that the leather doesn't get damaged, and get a pen light screwdriver and just start picking the switch up. Once you kind of get it up a little bit, you should be able to get behind it in a couple spots. Okay. Alright. And then you just wiggle it out. You're gonna have 2 connectors back here. Black one goes straight in the back, and the white one came out by itself because it's under more tension, but that one goes right here. Next, you have these 2 plastic covers here. What you're gonna do is just push in at the front and then pull them out. Just be gentle because there is a plastic barb that kind of sits out the back. It'll be easy to break if you yank on this. I'm gonna go right from the center of the front. And then now you've just revealed 2 more T20 screws. So 1 here, 1 here, 1 in there, and then 2 up here. So to remove these screws, we're just gonna use a 1/4 inch impact with the T20. I'm gonna use a deep socket so I don't have to switch the socket out. You have two that are a little deep in here and one that's deep in there. And as long as you go about these right, you shouldn't have any problem. That one's spinning on me. Okay, something's up with that one. These two down here that you need to line up properly. Might be easier to do by hand first. Okay. Sometimes these get stuck behind. Just take the door card off and then shake them out. That one fell out. And the last one's in here. Okay. Next, we're gonna remove all the clips off of the door card that connect to the door. So you want to put a trim tool back here and then grab a thicker one and begin going down the door. Oh, see, that screw that was in there fell out, so just make sure you're keeping an eye on those or you'll lose them. Just gently go around, maybe every 2 inches, and just give a little pull. Don't go too hard. These clips are known to break if you go too aggressive on them. All right, now you have the 5 tabs that actually hold it to that weather strip piece of trim. It's like a window guide. So you want to pull outward on the door card until you get to the point where this piece right here is the only thing left hanging, and then you lift off it. Now behind the door card, you have your door handle, and the way to remove this is by putting your fingers behind the rear and pulling forward, and then that releases the door latch. You want to pull your harnesses through for your mirror switch. Like that. Then you're going to want to remove these door card connectors. They just go into the card. Pull up on the speaker to remove that one. And then for this one, you want to pinch and pull. And again, that was pinch these 2 tabs in and pull straight out. So as you can see, a couple of these clips are broken. You have one up here and then one up here that's broken on this. And then if you look, there's this foam padding that's on the back of a lot of these clips, and you'll see it's missing from some. On the ones that it's missing from, you want to go back to the door panel and just make sure there's none in any of the holes. And more than likely, if you check the ground, you got a bunch fall out. So here, I already found 3 of them. And what these are for is to basically stop rattling. So you want to put these back onto the clips so that you don't hear the clips as you drive down the road kind of rattling against the door. We're gonna go get 2 replacement clips as we have them in the shop, but we'll leave links in the description for these clips as well as the clips on the other side, just in case these break. These are commonly broken when removed, so we'll throw some of those clips in the description below. Along with that, you have this rail up here, and it has these 5 rectangles, and those 5 rectangles connect to these metal clips on this window guide trim right here, and that's what holds the panel to the door, along with the clips around the side. So we're gonna go put the door panel aside. We'll swap these 2 clips out while it's over there, and then we can start removing some stuff on the door. So the window regulator assembly is behind this plastic sound deadening foam, and in order to remove that, you first need to remove the airbag. Now the airbag should never be unplugged while the battery is plugged in. It'll set faults and there's a risk of it actually exploding too. So what you wanna do is just remove it and set it down out of the way. It's held in with 3 10mm bolts. You want to hold it in place, pull it out, and then here's that plug. It is a unique plug and it does take some effort to unplug, so it is safe to just lightly rest it down. You don't want it to rest down in a position where it can unplug. So in this case, we're going to go grab a zip tie and just zip tie it up so we know that it's not going to unplug. So we're just going to grab a zip tie, put it around the cylinder up here with the cable, and that should safely hold it so it doesn't unplug. Now I'm not sure if it detonating is actually a true risk or just something that we're taught as technicians to kind of fearmonger us into not unplugging them while working on a car, because it does set faults. If I were to unplug this right now, it would definitely set an airbag fault, so you want to avoid that unless you want to go through clearing it, which if you don't have the proper tools, it can be a bit of a pain. And then even if you do, it's just not worth the extra work. So just zip tie it up, don't unplug it, and let it hang. Next, we're going to remove that sound deadening, and it's held on with butyl tape, which right now we're outside and it's bright and sunny out, so you can see how it just peels. And sometimes you can get away with it coming right off, but if you can't, what I like to do is just take a box cutter and just cut. You want to make note of where everything's sitting. So right under this plastic tab, you have the harnesses for the speakers, the mirror switch, and the airbag. And then one over from that towards the back in this slit, you have the door handle cable. So once you make those notes, you can take this liner fully off. So sometimes it gets a bit easier and the butyl tape doesn't hold on as well, so I just took off that entire lower corner just by pulling on it. No issues there. It is also in the center here, so that's where a lot of people rip these. You'll see these commonly ripped if they've been worked on prior. All right, and just like that, we have it off without damaging it. We're gonna take this and put it somewhere safe where the butyl tape doesn't touch anything and pick up contaminants. I'm just gonna put it face up inside the car. So with the sound deadening removed, now you can see the inner mechanics of the window. Over here, you have 2 nuts holding this outside window regulator piece in place. That's connected directly to the window with a nut and a bolt. You have cables going across to the other side of the window regulator, which is held in with 3 nuts, one here, and one here. Here you have the motor for the window, and it's plugged in right here, and it is physically attached to the regulator. You're gonna remove the motor with the regulator. Over here you have a zip tie that holds the upper cable in place. This just needs to be cut and replaced. Over here you have a clip that's holding the lower cable in place. Now these cables are in here to kind of maintain the tension between the 2 sides of the window, and this clip just needs to be pinched and pushed through. Over here there's going to be another connection. We'll show you guys what these look like after, but on the top of both of the sides of the regulator are those spots that we were talking about where there's a nut and a bolt holding the window in place. So what we need to do first before we can remove the regulator or disconnect the motor is lower the window down to this sight hole right here, and then you're gonna use this approximate location here to find the other bolt, but you need to lower down the window until you can see that 10mm bolt through these 2 sight holes. So we're gonna put the window down now. You're gonna hear some noise coming from it, which is why we're preventatively replacing this regulator. And again, you wanna look through this hole right here until you match up the bolt with that hole. You hear some scraping there. So it seems like, you can go down a little bit more.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Me either. All right, well, just a little bit more, and it's right about there. So you probably can't see it in the video, but there's a red piece of plastic there, and right behind that red piece of plastic is where you're gonna find that 10mm bolt. So once you have that lined up with one of them, the other one's gonna be lined up. You can see that one real easy right here. This one's not too difficult to line up or get to, but that's where it is. Now, before we disconnect anything, I just wanna talk about what could be failing with this window system. So if you're getting no power to the window, replacing the regulator is gonna do absolutely nothing for you. If you're having an electrical issue, you will not hear anything from this window. So if you're hearing some kind of scratching, scraping, and noise coming from the door, then you know electrically everything is working, and that's when you have a failed regulator. So how you just heard when we put this window down, there was some scratching and scraping. If that situation gets worse, eventually it might completely break the regulator, and it might be moving but not connected to the window anymore. And then that's when you'll just hear noise, but your window won't do anything. It'll either fall or be stuck up, or there's a couple different scenarios of what can happen when the window regulator fully fails. But if you're hearing anything from this motor in the door and your window's not going up and down, that's when you replace the window regulator. If you're not hearing any noise, then you want to still remove the door card, come to this connector right here on this window motor. You want to pinch this tab, pull it up, and as you can see, it's just a 2-pin connector. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna jump the 2 pins inside this motor right here, and by putting a power and a ground directly to that connector, you're gonna either put the window up or down. To reverse it, you just flip the 2 cables. So the continuity is just up and down and just needs to be switched. So if you put power directly to this and you hear no noise coming from this motor, that's when you know you have a failed motor. If you put power to this and suddenly your window's working, then you know that it's not a failed motor, but you have a different electrical issue that needs further diagnostics within the car, and that could be the window switch, that could be the control module, possibly even a fuse. There's a few other electrical components that might be stopping power from getting to the motor. But as long as you rule out the motor as the issue, then you know that the electrical issue is somewhere before the motor, and the way to do that is like we just said, put power directly to this motor and see if the motor works. If you put power to it, you'll immediately see something happening. If you have a condition where both the motor and the regulator aren't working, and then you put power to this and the window doesn't go up and down, but you hear a noise coming from the motor, then your motor is more than likely good. But there is a situation where if you remove this motor, the gearing on the motor itself might be broken and the motor might be spinning the shaft, but if the gears aren't there to physically move the regulator, then that might be the issue. And we'll show you guys what that looks like when we remove the regulator from the motor outside of the car. Now, getting that out of the way, we're gonna go with an 8mm on a ratchet. You don't wanna do this with an impact. These are very, very shallow head screws, and you wanna push them into the door with a lot of force and break the tension free. They have a high risk of jumping. Honestly, they should be replaced whenever you replace a regulator, but as long as you don't strip them out, then you can reuse them. It's highly likely that you will strip them if you use an impact gun or any kind of impact tool rather than just using a ratchet. So we're gonna use a 3/8 ratchet. We're gonna step it down to 1/4 inch, and that's how we're gonna get the most breakaway torque without, you know, using a gun. All right, so we're gonna go after the one through the sight hole here. My finger's right behind it now. So if you can't see it clearly in the video, it's lined up right here. Here's the approximate window height of where the window is when those bolts are lined up. So get your window to this position and just keep an eye on it down there, and you'll be able to find what we're talking about. Along with that, you did just put the window down, so don't leave your key in your ignition because you're gonna drain the battery. So make sure you remove your key, and then also leave the motor cable unplugged because it needs to be unplugged regardless. Next, we can go with our 8mm. Again, we're using a 1/4 inch step down because it's really shallow. There's a tight tolerance in there. You can't really get away with using a 3/8. So we're just stepping it down to a 1/4 inch. I'm gonna go straight in. And again, I like to push into the door really hard and then break it free. And then after that, you just unscrew it. I do like to stay behind or fall into the door, and it's kind of just something that you're gonna have to deal with. In this case, I probably was the last person in here because there's butyl tape on it. So what I like to do is if you go to remove these and you don't have anything to grab it with, to make sure that it stays with the screw, just put some butyl tape on your socket prior to going in and it will catch the screw, and then you don't gotta go fishing for it. So the tools you need are literally on the door. What just fell, which happens quite often, is the nut that's supposed to be encapsulated in the back of the window. And if you didn't hear it fall or you're not paying attention and you go to reinstall this and that nut's not there, you can screw all you want and sit there and you'll think that it's spinning or not catching, but it's because the nut fell somewhere into the door. So you gotta go recover that, which I just did, and this is what that nut looks like. It's supposed to be barbed and kind of sitting in that plastic, but as they get older, they fall out. What holds it in place is the screw. So the screw goes through here, grabs the nut obviously, and then pinches the window in between. There's a piece of plastic that sits in between this, and that's actually crimped into the window. So this does have the tendency to fall out. If you hear it fall, go and immediately recover it. So the other one is gonna be underneath the motor, and that's what it looks like. Here you can see a little bit better of what that red clip looks like right there. So same thing we did on the other side. I'm just gonna take that 3/8 ratchet, put it on that 8mm, really push it into the door, and use breakaway torque to release it. Again, we have butyl tape in that socket, and that's gonna hopefully bring this bolt out. And the nut fell. So again, go down, find that nut. You might have to reach in the door quite a bit, but again, that's what it looks like. So now at this point, the window is disconnected from the regulator. It's just the rubber seals holding it in place. So you wanna pull it off the regulator entirely, like making sure that it's separated, and then wanna start pushing it up. And just be careful not to smash it like I almost did. And then with two hands, bury it into the seals up here, and it should hold on. You can give it a wiggle after to make sure. Keep your hand underneath just in case, but normally they stay. So now you have the 5 nuts holding the window regulator and motor assembly in the door. Along with that, there's the zip tie, and we already removed this clip here. So first we're gonna cut the zip tie. Just take a pair of cutters, clip it, and it's off. You can use a 10mm impact, and just zap these guys out. Before we go removing anything, we want the airbag out of the way. So we're just gonna go put it up and just thread it in. A couple threads. You don't have to do this, but it'll make it a lot easier for you. So just like that. Okay, now we can grab the regulator. We're gonna start with the side towards the door actuator. We're gonna pop it out of those 2 connections and slide it down, like so. And then here, we're gonna do the same thing with these 3 connections. This one's already popped out. Okay. We can pick up this side of the regulator, pull it through. That's gonna kind of guide the rest of the regulator out. Make sure you don't get caught up on your harnesses like we did. Okay, just gonna put the harness over here. And just like that, we have our window regulator assembly removed from the car. So this is the window regulator assembly, and like I said, I think I was in there once before, where these normally break, and what I like to do if I'm working on a window for any reason is pull this apart and look for these cracks. If you see these cracked bits here, that's an indication that this is getting too much tension, and that piece that's encapsulated there is gonna break free and start ruining the system. So in this case, this is a preventative replacement because it's still in there, but you can see the failure about to happen. Now, if you flip this over, you just want to take your thumb, go like that, check it, and put it back. Don't put too much tension on it. If it is in good shape, then you're good to go. Check the other one. And with the other one, it looks like we have a crack forming on this back end here. So replacing this is totally valid, and I'm sure the upgraded Uroparts system is going to be a huge improvement. Now you want to remove this clip here, as we're going to need it moved over to the next one. So just pay attention that it sits on this black cable, not the one that goes up top, but the one that crosses from the bottom, and dead center. So just put that aside. Next we're going to flip this over and remove our motor, because the window regulator does not come with a motor. You're going to keep using your old motor. This is held in with 3 T30s, so we're going to get those out. All right, T30, coarse thread. Once you got all 3 of those out, what you're going to do is twist and pull. It can be a little bit of a pain to get out. A little wiggle. There's this tab back here that's actually holding it in place in the plastic. That's kind of what you're fighting when you're trying to get this out. It's just getting it through that. All right, and just like that, we have it out. So on the back of the motor itself, you can see some grease here. So the inside gearing of this is supposed to be grease. We're gonna put a little bit of grease on these gears here, as well as on the shaft to help it kind of get guided through easier. One thing I mentioned before is if you hear your motor running, but nothing's happening, there's a chance that this plastic gearing here broke. It's not very common, but it has been seen before. So if you're hearing power going to the motor, your window regulator is confirmed to be working, but your window's not going up and down, it's this gear set here that broke, or the female gear in the regulator here that's broken. So now we're gonna assemble our new window regulator. You can see it is pre-lubricated, so you do not want to put it on the ground and get it contaminated. The window regulator comes with a tip sheet, and it pretty much just talks about dry, dirty, sticky door seals, and that the way to have this part properly work and properly warranted is to make sure everything is clean and lubricated prior to installing. And they're not talking about this, they're talking about the pieces on your door. So we'll show you that in just a moment. First, we're gonna let this assembly free. I'm gonna get a little bit of lubricant and I'm gonna lube these gears, and then we're gonna install the motor. So we're just gonna take some grease, put it on this motor, and then on the shaft as well, just to guide it through. And as the window goes up and down, it will push any grease out that it doesn't need, but you'll have everything working properly on the first operation, and that's really what matters. So now you have these 2 tabs here, and you have these 2 tabs down here, and you have the 3rd one up here and up here. So you need to just line that up. A lot of times these window regulators don't come perfectly bent to specs, so you might have to bend these tabs to get the screws in right, fit properly, which is fine. Just gotta twist it back in, and you can see it's interfering over here, so you gotta kind of lift up, push down, and then twist it back into position. Once you have it in position, you can take your screws, start guiding them in. Again, these are never perfect from factory, so we're kind of gonna have to guide them in to the proper location, and then everything will settle up once it's tight. You can see that just kind of went into position. That one just moved into position. To this last one. This one looks pretty set up. Yeah, that one didn't have any problems. Okay, not too tight on those. And then lastly, we just have to put our clip back into place, which is gonna go center over here. Alright, so now that we finished putting it together, we're gonna go clean and lubricate the window guides to make sure that everything is in the best condition possible before we reinstall our window regulator assembly. So before we drop the window down manually, you're gonna wanna go in this door shell right over by the speaker on the inside of the door, and there's probably a foot of window seal that's inside the door frame. You wanna get some silicone lubricant and spray it inside that seal. And then just take a rag, spread it, clean everything up in there. You can see it's a little dirty. All right, and that just gets that side of this finished before you go and lubricate and clean the rest of the door seal. So now we're gonna lower the window. Again, just pinching, pushing it down. Just wanna walk it down gently. You can hear the resistance of the seal on the window. That's what we're gonna lubricate to get rid of. Now this is gonna make it much more difficult when we go to reinstall the window. It's not gonna grip up top as easy as it did before, but that resistance is what's killing your window regulator. So we'll deal with it for the install, but that little bit of discomfort while installing is gonna maintain the window regulator for a long time. So it's slightly inconvenient while installing, but it's a good thing overall. Next, we're gonna go around the door seal and spray silicone all around here. We'll show you from the outside. So you have a couple little seals here, but the window sits in this one. So you're gonna start up here and just spray silicone all inside. And go down the center in between these seals. And then all the way up this way. Get a nice covering now on everything else. And now we're gonna go clean and wipe it all down. So just get up inside that seal. Start spreading that silicone around. Like I said, it's also gonna be cleaning as it lubricates. You can see all that crud coming out. This is all the sticky stuff that's holding that window in place, which as much as it's helpful while working on it, it's actually killing your window regulator over time because it's fighting that tension, especially in the winter time when things start to freeze. We're over here in New England, so most of our window regulators and blower motors and all that stuff tends to break in the winter time when it's least convenient. So the lubrication definitely helps, and again, it helps make sure that you actually get a warranty for these parts, because if you install things improperly, there's not a huge chance you're gonna get a warranty. Just see how nasty all that is. This is a huge step that a lot of shops will skip when you go to get these kinds of things replaced. They'll just install it and then you'll have an issue all over again because everything wasn't lubricated. And look, we're even restoring some plastic. Let's go do the inside. So we're gonna spray through this channel one more time, just until we see it start dripping out the bottom, which we do. And then we're gonna go into the bottom and just do the exact same thing. Now you don't gotta go so crazy in here because you're not gonna see any of the lubrication, so it's actually better to leave it a little wet. You don't want it sopping wet where dust and stuff can actually create a clog. If you know silicone, and just even when it's dry, it's still wet. So the window falls out when you fully put it down, and you need to get it back in that channel properly. So that's the only thing you really have to pay attention to when you're putting the window back up. You just guide it in the right spot. So you can see right here, I'm behind it. And if you go shoving this up, you're gonna shatter the window or cause some problems. So you wanna pull the window into that guide. You'll see the middle seal where the window actually goes. And then just start lifting the window up. Like so. And now if you want, you can take some masking tape and just tape the window up, because now the lubrication's there. It may fall and you don't want it to hit the bottom of the door. It will shatter. So we're just gonna go grab some tape quick, tape this up, and then we can get back to installing our window regulator. So you can see now the window moves up and down much easier, and that's exactly what you want. Before we put the window up, I wanna just show you guys the plastic pieces that actually go into the window and hold it to the regulator. So if you see that cross within it, these nuts come from the back and will go into those. So you have to make sure it lines up properly. So in this case, it's gonna go like this, but from the back, and then it flares into the plastic and gets held in place like that. So then after that goes your window regulator. There's a bracket on the regulator that fits into this. Tab here is that red tab I was talking about that sits in the window regulator. And then your screw goes through and holds everything together. So again, just use some butyl tape, guide it in, and as I'm doing here, just reach in behind and with a finger, hold this nut in place so that when you push the screw in, it doesn't push it out before it catches. Because what's normally happening is it'll just push it through and then it falls and then you gotta go fishing for it. And with the regulator and everything in place, it's a bit difficult to find these sometimes. So right now I'm gonna pop it out until I'm ready. And then you'll see me maneuver this back into place in just a bit. Anyways, we're gonna push this window back up. On the other side, we did just leave it in place, but you can see it start to droop. And so this time, just to show you guys the safe way to do this, just in case you're doing it on a window that might be better lubricated or maybe just want to prevent any damage, take some masking tape. We're just gonna go from the outside, tape the window up. So just like that, and a couple spots should hold the window up, no problem. And that's just a precautionary measure to make sure that you don't shatter the window. So I'm just gonna push the wiring out of the way now. We have our regulator in our hand. We're gonna start with the side with the motor, so pretty much put it back in the same way that we removed it, where this all goes in first. And then this can go in after. Try not to let this settle on the bottom of the door as it is lubricated, and there may be some grime down there. And start lining some of this up. Right now, we can drop our airbag and our wiring back down so it's out of the way. Again, gently settle the airbag back down. You can see why the airbag was in the way. This regulator is going over the door, not under. So just go back down, start lining this up. So that goes there, and when that's lined up there, the bottom one can go in here. You can see that this regulator has an adjustment of maybe a few centimeters. We're gonna take our nuts and just loosely put them on to hold this side in place. Okay, now we can go over to the motor side, try to find our studs, Window is about here, so if you're having issues where it's not coming forward, don't pull this forward. You're gonna drop the motor back down, find the stud, and then put it in the guide. And then if you do that right, you should line up all of your guides pretty much right on. Let's get a couple of these in. Just again, loosely while we get this bottom one in. Again, just put them on loosely just to hold everything in place. Okay, then we just gotta figure out what's going on with this bottom one, which just went right in once the other ones were in. All right. Now what we're gonna do is plug our motor back in, and we're gonna put our key back in our ignition, and I'm going to put the window regulator up until it reaches the position where it can be mounted to the window, which should be right there. As you can see, inside here, there's this top part where the screw actually goes, and then right underneath it, there's this tab, and that's where that red tab will go. Might be able to show you better over here. So right there is where the screw goes, and then directly underneath it is an opening, and that opening is where that red piece on the window goes in. So you want to make sure the window is properly in that piece of the regulator before bolting anything up. Now we can remove our tape and lower the window. I'm holding the window with my palm on the inside. The window's only gonna go as low as the regulator, and it should clip right into place, but still wanna just make sure nothing happens while it gets there. So just gonna start pulling it down. Those red pieces we were talking about earlier are lined up. Well, we actually messed up over here and put our door actuator release up front. So this is the type of stuff you want to catch before you get too far, because the way that we put this in, somehow this ended up behind it, and you want this on the outside of the window, or could have just bound up the window, or could have cut this. That was almost a bad thing that just happened. So anyways, gonna go put the window down into position, and if you watch in here, you should be able to see this made up. So now you can see the window coming down, and then we're gonna give it a little bit of tension to clip that piece in. So right there, that red piece is in the regulator. Just gotta go do the same thing on the other side. So the window's a little crooked. Okay, so now that's that red clip right there. We can just pull it down, and now you can see it's in place. And right here's where our nut is gonna go in the back. So I'm gonna grab that nut. I'm gonna put it behind, and then now we're ready for that screw. So keeping a finger behind the nut as to not push it out, we're gonna take our screw and we put butyl tape on it so that it sits in our socket. We can guide it straight in and start tightening. Now we're just gonna tighten it up. Don't gotta go too tight on this, just tight. Now we're gonna go over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Should be pretty easy. Yeah, it's already lined up. So normally if you get one lined up and the window is looking like it's in a straight position, then you can get the other one lined up at the same time. I don't know if you guys can see this a little bit better, but there's that red tab that we showed you on the window, and that's where it sits in that metal bracket on the window regulator. And then behind there is where our nut's gonna go, and then our screw goes into the nut through both pieces. So grab your nut, you're gonna put it in, keep your finger behind to hold it in place. Grab your screw, gonna get some butyl tape off the door. Hold that, grab your socket, put it on, go through the door. Again, holding the nut from the back so you don't push it through, and just tighten it up. I'm gonna go to 1/4 inch now, and we're gonna make sure these are wrist tight. All right, so I might have said 10 mil earlier, I meant 8. So now we're just gonna go wrist tight with this, and you can kind of feel it stop. You don't wanna go any tighter than that. Put it back over here. Okay, so now our window is fully attached to our regulator. So the next thing we're gonna wanna do is grab a zip tie and reconnect our cable up here. Nice and tight like that. And then trim the tail. We're gonna go to the other cable. Line up that clip that we put on. And so position the clip a little bit. And just push it through, make sure you get it fully through on both sides. Like so. What we're gonna do is watch one of these nuts. So we're gonna keep an eye on this one. You wanna make sure that they're all like tight, and then back them off a turn. So tight, back them off a 1/4 turn. Tight, back it off a 1/4 turn. Tight, back it off a 1/4 turn. Just like that. So now we're gonna set the window adjustment. So we're gonna let the window go all the way up. So key back in the ignition. keep an eye right here. You can see it pushes down as the window goes up. And then as we push the window down, it goes up a little bit, and then it goes back down. So I'm thinking that this is the position we want it set in. So I'm gonna let the window go up and down a couple more cycles. And that's where we're gonna tighten everything up. So just starting with one of the 10 mils, we're gonna do all this by hand, just wrist tight. Now cycle it again. All right, and back down. And you can see now it's moving completely smooth, no resistance. And now we can clean the window of any handprints and any of the grease that ended up on the inside or outside of the window. And then we're gonna cycle the window a couple more times just to make sure that it's not picking up any new silicone, and then wipe that down as well. All right, so we're just gonna wipe all this down. Now go do the inside. Especially down here. Now we're gonna cycle the window again and then wipe it down again. Stop it right here. Clean some of this up. You can see it picked up some more silicone over here, so we're just gonna wipe that down. All right, we should be good. So now we can start reinstalling the sound deadening liner. You can put our airbag back in, you can cut this zip tie, and then we can start putting the door panel back in. So again, remember to shut your key off so you don't kill your battery. Now what we're gonna do is grab our sound deadening. We're gonna pick up the harnesses and put them over. Those are gonna go down through this first cut right here. And then the door handle is gonna go through the second cutout right there. And then now you're gonna match up these body plugs with the holes. So like that one, gonna go right there. And as you go, that's what you're gonna just be paying attention to. You can see the little cutout here has a spot for this plastic receiver. Another one here, another one here, another one here. Right there's another one. Last one's right there. So now we can take our airbag and cut the zip tie. Put it up like this. The harness underneath. Again, just installing these by hand, wrist tight. Now, one thing I want to mention on these doors, you have the long screw that typically goes into these long black pieces of plastic like this. If you look at the diagrams for this car, the short screw technically goes here, and they say the long screw goes here. And if you're familiar with E46s, the long screw goes behind the door handle. But on both door cards on this car, we did find originally this long one up here. We actually swapped it earlier, and I noticed that it wasn't really catching right. So we're gonna install the long one up here, and then the other short one is going to go into this position. You have the two other short ones that go into these positions, and the one over here that's going to be another short one. And you can tell that these are all the same receiving plug, being that metal receiver, as opposed to this one, which is deeper and black and plastic. So a little strange that they put this one here, especially in the diagrams, but we're going to put that back in that spot on this door card. All right, so we have our door card back. We replaced our broken clips and we reinstalled all of the little foam insulators that keep the door panel from rattling. So now what we're gonna do is grab our harness and plug this speaker back in. I'm gonna grab this cable and plug this speaker back in. And then we're going to plug this harness retainer back into the card like that. Now we're gonna line up the holes of the door card so you can see down here, that clip goes into that hole, that clip goes into that hole, and so on. As you go up, you're gonna want to start feeding the harness through the hole here. And as you can see, our connector here is broken on this door card, so we're just gonna do our best. You wanna pull them through, and it's a good idea to keep your hand on them on the inside as you pull them through so that you can get the most slack. The black one you don't want to slack too much, but you want a lot of slack off of the white one. And there's our broken door card, giving us some problems. I'm probably gonna pull this broken piece out, as it's just useless at this point. So now when you got the card to this position, you wanna put the indicator for your door lock actuator in place. You wanna start lining up the card like this. We're gonna pull the door panel back. You wanna grab your hand and put it on the inside of the door handle so that it's in the closed position. When it's in the closed position, you want to close it and then verify that your door lock actuator is working. After, you want to line up the strip on top with the door card and then just give it a couple knocks into place. Afterwards, we're going to go around the door card and lightly start popping our clips into place. You might need to wiggle things around a little bit to get them to properly seat. Okay. And once you have them all in place, you can go around and double verify. Stay away from hitting the speaker cover with your palm. You can break those pretty easily. So now we're gonna grab our long screw. This is the T20. This is gonna go into that plastic receiver. And we're gonna be putting these all in by hand this time. I'm not gonna impact these back in. Just wrist tight. You don't wanna go too deep because the metal's gonna start cutting the leather. So it just needs to be on. We're gonna do a little one over here next. Again, these are all T20. Again, just tight. And do the two down here. Those you want to go straight in, kind of get them in place in the first shot, because you don't want to go fishing for them after. Okay. Next one over. All right, and then obviously ours is broken here, but you'd want to put that last one in there. What I might do, just for the sake of doing it, is grab the screw and we're gonna put it in place so that it's there if at any point this door panel is to be replaced. It's not gonna be missing. So we're just gonna get that in and just tighten it up just a little bit. We're not gonna go crazy with this. All right, so now that's there. You can see the door still works without it. It's just a piece that was in here. When we removed it, all of it just fell apart. So, you know, 20-plus-year-old car. What is this, 99? So this is a 25-year-old car at this point, so it's not the worst of it. Anyways, you can get your connectors here. I think the white one goes into the center, so a little bit of tighter tolerance right there. And the black one goes in back. Slide that into place. Just press it down nicely. I'm gonna put my key back in my ignition, and just to verify that I got everything right, we're gonna switch this mirror to the left one and start controlling it. And I can see the mirror working. So now we're gonna flip it to the other side, and I can verify that one's working. So we're all set with that. Turn the key back off. I'm gonna take my trim, I'm gonna slide it underneath the door handle right there. Give it a few pops. Next, we're gonna get these covers. We're gonna take the barb side, put it in, and then you have this clip side, which then you just pop into place. So just like that, barb side in, clip, up, and we're done. So that's how to replace your driver's side front window regulator on your E46 sedan. Huge shout out to Uroparts for sending us their premium window regulator. We also got another one for the passenger side as mentioned before, so we'll link that video in the description below. Along with that, we'll link all the tools we use as well as any parts that may be in need of replacing along the way. So we'll do the clips up top that hold the trim in place, and then the clips that go around along with those little rubber insulators if we can find them. There's not really any torque specs for this job. Everything's just wrist tight, so you can take it apart with an impact, but like we did, just go back and put it back with a 1/4-inch ratchet and you should be all set. If you guys found this video helpful at all, just let us know in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, or any concerns, drop them in the comments below. We're pretty good about answering stuff. Along with that, we have a ton of videos on E46s in general, from XIs to coupes to 4-doors, so go check those out. We're always uploading more videos, and we definitely are gonna have more E46 content in the future. If you're just into BMWs or even some Audis, Volkswagen, stuff like that, we have tons of videos and we're constantly uploading, so be sure to subscribe and check out the channel. We use some tools here that we're also gonna give some Amazon links to. We're gonna try to use some budget-friendly links to similar or the exact parts that we used in the video, so be sure to check out the description for that as well. Until next time, thanks for watching BavhausTV.